What's going on, y'all? So, I am going to participate in this accent challenge, which is going to be a challenge for me, even just to title this, because those of you who know me, you guys know uh, I've moved around. You know what I'm saying, through my childhood, my life, and those of you, folks who knew me for a long time also know that my accent's changed several times. So what you hear now, like I live in California, and the biggest thing I hear is, where are you from? You know, when they hear me talk, or maybe the things I talk about. You know what I'm saying? Because on the East Coast we're a little more cerebral than brothers out here. So uh, anyway, so let me just not waste time and get along with it. But hold on, let me start off by telling you guys. So I grew up. I was born and raised in the Philippines as a kid, and years later we moved to Taiwan. I learned to speak Tagalog and well, we call it Putonghua, but it's Mandarin Chinese, so it's like Taiwanese Mandarin, which is a little bit different than mainland Chinese. And came here to the States 11 years old, lived in Washington, D.C., like in D.C., like, how people say, like, they're from Maryland, they claim D.C., and I was really in D.C. And so I lived there, and of course, when I got there, kids used to laugh at the accent that I had, not just how I looked, but they laughed at how I talked because we had accents. Oh, I should say this: that in Taiwan, my father was the only, and my uncle, forgot my Uncle Lee. They were the only American English speaking Americans around. So the thing about Taiwan was it was never really colonized, but it was occupied by the British. So everyone who was there spoke Taiwanese Mandarin, and they spoke English with a British accent. So me going to school, because I went to regular public school, I kind of had like a little, I guess, a British ting, I don't know what they call it, twang or something, to my English. So when I come here, now I got a mom who barely speaks English, a father who's a brother from DC, having grown up in a Chinese environment with British speaking people around me, teachers and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I'm pretty sure I sounded kind of weird. So the folks I went to college with, right, because of social media and, we connect after years and reunions and all this kind of stuff. Everyone who knew me at that stage that I came out of high school, went to college, even my high school buddies, like, yo, what happened to your accent? Say, I don't know. So anyway, 18, I went back to the Philippines, and I stayed there until I was 20. Come back to Washington, D.C. I stayed there till 99, when I was 30, and then I came to California. When I came to California in 1999, everybody thought I was Southern. Everybody talked about I sounded country and stuff like that. So I'm assuming I had some sort of accent when I got here, and then now I've been here 19 years. Yeah, 19 years. And so my friends back east, whenever I would go back home or I run into them or they happen to come out here and we hook up, usually the first thing people comment on, well, in fact, I used to be real skinny, and now I'm a little bit, I'm a big dude now. So they would either comment about me having gained weight, because I grew up, I ain't gonna stay a kid forever. And then two, that my accent is gone, or that my accent, like, I even had people tell me I sound white. Yeah. So anyway, that being said, I'm pretty sure that, oh, my mom texted me. Okay, so I'm reading this thing off my phone, okay? So, I gotta read a list of words. Aunt, roof, route, R-O-U-T-E, route, wash, oil, theater, iron, salmon, caramel, fire, water, sure, data, ruin, crayon, New Orleans, pecan, both. I used to say both. I know that. They used to tease me on that one. Again, probably, spitting, image, Alabama, lawyer, not yet. Coupon, mayonnaise, syrup, pajamas, or I call them jammies, caught, naturally, aluminum, envelope. The questions. What is it called when you throw toilet paper on a house? That is a white boy thing. Brothers don't do that. Plus, in DC, we all lived in apartments. So unless, you got, serious arm, you can't do it. But they call it papering or something like that. So I think that's what they call it, papering. What is the bug that when you touch it curls into a ball? I'm from DC, man. We don't have shit like that. I don't know. I have no idea. Like armadillos? No, I don't know. Number 3. What is the bubbly carbonated drink called? What is the bubbly? Oh, soda. Beer. Yeah. What do you call gym shoes? Gym shoes. Sneakers. Tennis shoes. What do you say to address a group of people? Y'all. Or folks. All of y'all. What do you call the kind of spider or spider-like creature that has an oval-shaped body and extremely long legs? Which would be, well, I know from watching other videos, it's a daddy long legs. I probably would have got that one wrong anyway, because I never really looked at the body, you know what I'm saying? What do you call your grandparents? Oh, okay. So my grandmother died before I came to the States. On my father's side, my paternal grandmother. My paternal grandfather, I called him Grandpa. When I talk to my children about him, and now my dad, I refer to him as Papa Westray. My papa on my grandfather's side, my mother's side of the family, I call him Lolo or I call him Papa, which is what my mom called him. And then Lola is my grandmother, but I also called her Mama, which is what my mom called her. So, and they're Filipino, of course, so we, give them a different name. What do you call the wheel contraption in which you carry your groceries at the supermarket? Shopping cart. What do you call it when rain falls while the sun is shining? What? What do you call it when rain falls while the sun is shining? Nigga, please. Okay, number 9. What is the thing you change the TV channel? Remote control. The remote. And that's it? Ain't no more questions? I thought it was longer than that.
Hi, I'm Rebecca.
Oh, shut up, Rebecca. Yeah, I guess everybody has the same questions. Okay, so that's it. So one thing I want to say that, where I'm from, at least with black folks, because really there's the DC accent is not just a DC accent. There's a black DC accent, but the black DC accent is not universal, right? So you have, what would I call them? Well, I couldn't give it a name, right? But there's really 2 types of DC accents. I think one sounds more Southern than the other, but they're different types of Southern. You know what I'm saying? So if you ever listen to somebody, I couldn't even tell you anybody famous who, but in DC you have black folks that talk with a very, I would call it like a Virginian DC accent. They sound like affluent black folks, even though they're not necessarily wealthy or educated, but they speak very proper. That kind of black folk accent. And then you have like the more urban. I don't want to say ghetto because, like I said, you don't have to be from the ghetto to have that accent. So, but anyway, so my family I think we would fit more into that kind of, uh, um, well, not middle class because you're not necessarily, wealthier than anybody else, but they, it's like the more proper speaking black folks. You know what I'm saying? So, um, uh, it's probably less slang, I would say. There's less slang. Um, you know, um, they carry themselves more. I hate to say this, but almost dignified, like you thought you were better than other people. You know what I'm saying? So, and I know that's not true about my family, but I think if you compared black folks like my family to other black folks, you'll see that the accent kind of goes along with family traditions. You know what I'm saying? So, uh, I've come from a family of of tradesmen and federal workers, and so I'll tell you about my grandfather's generation. My grandfather's generation, Aunt Aunt Tony and Aunt Jerry were the only ones to go to college. They both became teachers. My uncle Herbert joined the military, came up, became a mechanic. My grandfather was a bricklayer. My uncle Clayton was a butler in the White House, and Uncle Kenneth uh, was in a post office, and he spent his career there. Then my dad, who, I guess you could say he was from the hood, but didn't carry himself like he was from the hood because he's a West Straight man. And so my father speaks very, very proper, but he is in no way like a suburban dude. You know what I mean? I mean, my dad is very, very urban and uh, and very, very black. We talk about his relationship with white folks. My dad was very very proud, and they were his competition. I wouldn't even call them like enemies or whatever, but they were kind of like competition. And so, what goes along with that is, the whole family had a culture of excelling, um, in spite of the racism that's around, because DC, Virginia, yeah, a lot of racism. Uh, they insisted we make good grades. They insisted we speak English properly, even though we probably had more uh, Ebonics in our lingo, whatever. But um, but yeah, that was just the culture. So I think in our family, and there's many black families like mine, that, like I said, we weren't wealthy, we weren't really highly educated or anything like that, but they really affected the way that we spoke. You know what I'm saying? So when you hear us talk in our family, think like a James Earl Jones, or think like a James Baldwin. You know what I mean? When you hear that voice, a Morgan Freeman, that is definitely a black voice, and it's definitely Southern, but it's not ghetto, and so that, I think that's pretty characteristic of one of the DC. Oh, okay. One of the DC accents. And then the other one is the one that probably most people know when they think of Chocolate City, and but we're not all, like I said, there's two different subcultures within DC. So probably one is more urban than the other. Well, they're both urban. But one is probably more Southern sounding, You know what I mean? So anyway, that's where I came from, and then all that little bouncing around that I did probably affected the way that I talk. I don't know how the hell I ended up talking like this. So anyway, that's it for my video. So I'll figure out how to label this thing and I'll post it.